So fortunately, we do have the ability to report that we have had no incidents over the last couple of days, to include this morning. There's been no significant activity or anything like that that we've been concerned about. We do think that our security posture over the last week has contributed to that success. We were charged with the mission of protecting the campus grounds and to make sure that the democratic process goes on uninterrupted. And we feel that we have been successful up to this point, and we continue to work towards that. As we put out yesterday, in continuing investigation as regards to the breach at the Governor's Mansion last week and an incident that occurred among some of the journalists here last week, Damon Huseman was arrested yesterday afternoon. He was taken into custody without incident up in Seattle with the assistance of Seattle Police Department. He is now in custody, and he's being housed at the Thurston County Jail. He was arrested for assault second degree and felony harassment, and they will probably be facing some charges for the criminal trespass that occurred at the Governor's Mansion on the 6th. We want to thank our detectives from the State Patrol who diligently worked to find and make the case to get Mr. Huseman in custody. We take things like this very seriously. We also had assistance from the Fusion Center. Our detectives are just one of the fence posts that make up the fence of the State Patrol that helps keep the state of Washington safe, and we're very thankful for that ability to do that. So that's it, and I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Boyle.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kurt Boyle. I'm a lieutenant with the Washington State Patrol and a director of the Washington State Fusion Center. I can report right now that the Washington State Fusion Center is unaware of any credible or validated threats targeting Washington State. Again, we're working a 7 days a week shift with our Fusion Center. We are not a 24-hour Fusion Center, but we have decided to make our staff and adjust our staff so we are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for all our partners, whether it's the State Patrol, the FBI, local agencies that have questions about the security of their own facilities. So it's nice to see that there hasn't been any threats in Washington State. And again, when we're focusing on, we're making sure that people have the ability to exercise their First Amendment rights and express whether they agree or disagree with political views, be able to do it safely and without any threats to themselves or others. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And Darren and Kurt will obviously stand for questions here in a moment. I just want to give some information on the cost. We've had a lot of questions about that here in the last 24 to 48 hours, and I have been able to gather. This is WSP information only. This does not include DES, the Department of Enterprise Service, which would be in charge of the fencing and the kind of the grounds expenditures that have been made, nor the National Guard. And so both the Guard and DES will be a part of our 2:30 virtual briefing, and they will be able to answer questions at that point. So this is just Washington State Patrol. For the 13 days of this deployment, so far, we have spent $1,019,151 on personnel costs. That includes $488,299 of regular time and $1,019,151 in overtime. So those two combined, I misread that, add to $1,507,450. So let me say that again. Our total cost for WSP for this deployment so far in the first 13 days is $1,507,450. In addition to that, we had additional expenditures of $100,707. That includes $37,658 for food, $1,049 for supplies, and then an estimate of $10,000 for equipment, and another estimate of $52,000 for lodging. And I'll remind folks that we have pulled resources from all 8 of our geographic districts across the state, so the troopers that you're seeing on the line and on campus are coming from across the state. I'll stress again, this does not include the cost of the National Guard. This does not include the fencing cost and any other specific equipment used on the campus. and nor does it include any sort of projection for the days to come. A big question that we've gotten many, many times is what will the duration of this be? There are meetings going on about that as we speak. We are all hopeful that if we have a calm day today, that we will be able to see a gradual drawdown over the next few days. What will the permanent impacts be? We don't know yet. We've talked about in these press briefings since the very beginning, we felt like the January 6th events, both here at our campus and in Washington, D.C., were page-turning events. So we have turned that page quite literally today with the inauguration of President Biden. What that new page looks like as far as the security posture, profile, and equipment and mobilization that will be needed going forward for a new environment of security concern is yet to be determined. But the folks at the highest levels of state government are working on that as we speak. I know that I can anticipate questions that, well, that's a lot of money. You know, was it worth it? We feel that the presence that you have seen, both the National Guard and the expanded Washington State Patrol presence, has contributed to the peace and calm that we have seen for the last 13 days. How much value do you put on that peace and calm? I can only answer that with how much money would we as a country be willing to spend to go back to January 6th and take the assault on our nation's capital out of our history books? How much would we be willing to spend to keep that from being a part of the lasting memory of this very early and young year? How much would we spend to be able to get the 6 lives that were taken that day?